I am about to ruin your life because these FL Studio tips I'm about to show you are just going to have you on FL Studio constantly. You're just going to want to be addicted to FL Studio. I'm going to show you them right now. Let's do it. The first tip we'll be looking at is the Pogo Knob in the samplers. I have this project here, I hope you liked it, and we're going to be looking at the kick. I'm going to double click on it to open the sampler, and then we can go to the pre-computed effects section. Now this is a very overlooked section in the sampler, and we have a ton of parameters that we can use here. Now the Pogo Knob is right here at the bottom right, and it's very simple. We can turn this to the left or the right, and it kind of affects the tonality and the sound of your sample. So here's the original sample, and we can turn this to the left and we get a completely different sound. If we turn this to the right, once again a completely different kick. So there's like 100 kicks that you can get out of this one single sample if you use the Pogo Knob. We could also do this for the snare, and maybe we can play around with this in the track. So there's just a ton of experimenting to do with your own tracks and a ton of different colors that you can get out of one single sample. Extremely beautiful sounding loops, and we are going to turn this lead into a MIDI file, so you'll be able to edit it in the piano roll. So the first thing we'll do is actually double click on the sample, and down here we'll right click and select edit in pitch corrector. And we're not going to pay attention to this will open a new tone, but we are going to open a new plugin, whatever you want to use for this MIDI. So I will open a new plugin. I'm going to open Serum because you know Serum, come on. And now that I've gotten Serum open and I'm selected on the plugin in the channel rack, we can actually go back to this new tone and then press this button, which sends the MIDI of this file into the plugin that you're selected on. So let's press it, and now the MIDI is sent to the actual piano roll. We can play it. Okay, and it's a little bit off, but it's still there and we can fix it up. And now that we fixed up the notes, I'm just going to select quarter beat, press Ctrl Q, and this will instantly quantize the MIDI. So now all of the MIDI is perfectly on beat. Okay, and now if we wanted to, we could just recreate the sound. So I'll go to the channel rack, open Serum, I will select a square wave, maybe a little bit of reverb and delay. And now we pretty much have a nearly identical sound using the MIDI from itself. Does that make sense? And this can be extremely useful for any loops that you have, or maybe vocals or anything like that. So I highly suggest you go and experiment with it. We actually analyze this melody in the FL Mastery Academy, link in the description. And we're going to create an instant reverse reverb transition into this melody. It's literally going to take less than a second if you get good at it. We're going to double click on this melody and copy the first note into its own pattern. I'm going to place the pattern in the playlist and move this melody over just like that. Now I'm going to right click on the track that is holding the pattern and go down to consolidate tracks and choose from track start. Make sure you select leave remainder. Render this out. Now that we have the consolidated sample, this is what we're gonna do, and this is going to go by very fast. Are you ready? Select the sample, Control E, Control R, enter, Alt left, and then drag it directly into the playlist, and boom, you have your instant reverse reverb into the melody. So we can just line this up with where the melody starts here. Maybe turn it down just a little bit. Beautiful. And this is a trick I got from Jonas Aiden a long time ago, or maybe I should say Aiden Foyer now. It's extremely useful and very efficient for your workflow, so memorize it. Okay, so I know I showed you this tip in a previous video. It was actually my first video, but it's really useful and versatile, so I'm gonna show you it again. This is a cymatic sample. It's just that, and it already kind of sounds like an instrument, but we're going to turn this into a proper sounding instrument, and you can do this with anything that kind of has some tonal value to it, so maybe a vocal or something like that. Let's go to the envelope settings, enable volume, and we can play around with this volume envelope to get kind of a plucky sound. Maybe a little bit of release. And now we can even play with the pitch. So if we enable the pitch envelope and just make a slight bit of attack at the very beginning of the sample, it's going to give it a little bit more pluckiness and a little bit of punch. And we can mess with the parameters however we want. So I just have a short bit of decay and I turn the amount all the way up. And if we wanted to, we could apply some reverb and delay. Very beautiful pluck sound. And then of course you could create something with it. Okay, this actually sounds really good. I'm gonna make a beat out of this real quick. Okay, so I just consolidated that bottle instrument we just made, and I made a quick beat out of it. Just an 808, some hi-hats, and a clap. I also added some strings and some orchestral elements. Insane, bro. There's so much potential and experimentation that you can do with just a single sample. Always remember that.